Welcome back to another UNC Tar Heels football recruiting podcast here on TarHeelIllustrated.com. And if you are watching us on our rapidly growing YouTube channel, it's still growing fast, even in the off season. That is called Tar Heel Illustrated. I'm THI publisher Andrew Jones, and joining me is our director of football recruiting and jack of all trades, Miss Deana King. And Deana, this is going to be a huge month. The moment the calendar went from May to June, it's like the fast and furious of college football happening. The games are still a few months away. Most fans are going to the beach and they're out at the pool. They're having their sweet tea and they're not thinking too much about football. But championships, parts of championships are won in the month of June because you've got the camps coming up on all the campuses, and you've got mega visits coming up. And for North Carolina, no shortage. They've got the Tar Heels have their camp season beginning this weekend. 800 kids coming in Saturday and Sunday. And as of right now, correct me if the number's wrong because it's very fluid. And by the time we end this podcast, it could change. 29 kids right now slated for official visits in the month of June. 7 of them right now it's 7 will be this weekend. So they have the camps going on, official visits going on. And of course, that means Deana is going to be pulling her hair out busy. So what are your thoughts about this kind of month and how the trajectory of Carolina's 2023 recruiting class can change, and how we who cover the program are going to learn a lot more about what this staff is totally what kind of guys they've zeroed in on with the class of 23?
First of all, what is this sipping tea and enjoying the beach and vacation? Not happening here.
Yeah, I go on I get my steps every day. That's my vacation, right?
I'm going to call it the start. I'm going to call it the start of the silly season because it's going to be crazy, as you mentioned. Official visits every weekend. It started last month, and it was fruitful. Joel Starling's committed on the last big official visit weekend they had. The big 4-star defensive tackle out of Virginia. So seven right now. It could change, like you said. I mean, some good kids coming in, and then all during the month. I mean, the big one is the last weekend of June, where, I mean, right now they could have almost 18 to 20 kids come in. But recruiting is fluid. Some kids may change their plans, like Cameron Fleming. He was supposed to come this weekend and he postponed to another time. Things happen. People commit. May change it. Another guy may be in a similar position, says, oh, well, I think I'll choose another destination for official visit. So anything can happen. But like you said, a humongous weekend this weekend, 7 right now, official visitors, 2 big camp sessions on Saturday and Sunday, 400 each. That's a lot of kids, I'm telling you.
And also they have other recruiting events and camp events going on later on in the month. Let's focus on this weekend for a few moments before we move on to some other stuff. We just posted a piece Thursday morning on the site about just the fact that they're going to have camp going on while kids are on their official visit. And it's a lot. This is a mega on both sides here. So the OVs begin Friday, they end Sunday morning. So the only day where there will be a lot of jockeying going on by the coaching staff would be Saturday. Now, camp begins, I guess registration's at noon, camp ends at 5. So it's not like it takes up all day like the annual Showtime, or used to be called the Freak Show camp, would. So the staff doesn't have to be with these kids at all times, and they can devote their time to the camp. But I think it's fascinating that you've got 7 OVs going on while they're going to have 400 kids participating in a camp Saturday. And oh, by the way, right across the street at Boschhammer Stadium, Carolina is hosting a regional in the NCAA baseball tournament. So a lot going on, a lot to juggle. But you talked to Patrick Suttis, the general manager of Carolina, is sort of the head of recruiting, and he told you, you know what, not a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, Coach Brown's been in this profession a long time, so he knows how to manage things. I mean, and like when the camp's going on, I'm sure his support staff in the recruiting office, they have it set up where they got it. They may have the kids and their families meet up with the academic advisors and showing the academic side of UNC. And you never know, they may just have a tour of the whole university, campus. Just not the athletic facilities. And you mentioned the baseball thing going on. What a great event to possibly take some of those kids. It may help out with one specific kid in Caleb Cost, who is a really good baseball player and could possibly play both sports in school. And he has North Carolina in his top list. So he's at
the very least, the baseball going on will add to the buzz on campus. It'll complicate things with some traffic and everything else. And I've covered a camp a couple of years ago when Carolina was playing Auburn in the Super Regional, I believe it was. And it was crazy with the baseball going on and the camp going on, but it also added a lot to the buzz. So if it's your one time there and you're coming as a parent, taking a pretty highly touted kid to camp that day, you're like, man, there's a lot going on here. This place is frothing at the mouth big time. And I think that can actually be a positive for Carolina on multiple fronts, because the camps are recruiting opportunities too. The camps are opportunities for the coaches to see a handful of kids that might be targeted to be prospects that could go to Carolina. The kids get a chance to be coached by the coaches, and that's kind of what makes this a juggling act, because the UNC coaches coach the kids in the camps. There are coaches from other schools as well. I've seen coaches from all the regional smaller schools pitch in and helping with the drills and everything. But if you're an offensive lineman and you're going to be at Carolina's camp Saturday, at some point, Jack Bicknell's going to coach you. They're not going to be wandering around just with the kids taking the OVs. And that's what you were alluding to. There are other things that the kids taking the official visits can do, which is not directly involved with football. And also, to make it clear so people understand, the kids taking the official visits cannot go over to the camp session. They can't mix with that. So they have to stay away from that, which is why that's the perfect time of day for the camp tour, the academic tour, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot going on in Chapel Hill this weekend, so I'm excited to go there. And the staff has been really good we've seen in past camps. Now maybe a kid do well and get invited back to that Showtime camp that they might have later on in the month, and see kids basically come from that camp to go to Showtime camp, then get a Carolina offer. So we've seen that happen recently, in the past couple of years. So it's just a really busy, silly time for Carolina football. And we told people that it was getting ready to rev up, and with that many official visits coming in, hopefully we'll see some more kids start making those decisions on where they want to go.
Yeah, I think that they're on the cusp of that. We're going to highlight 6 kids that are coming in this month. We're not going to go in depth here. We're just going to do a snapshot on each one of them, just to give people to wet the whistle, so to speak. One of them, by the way, you just mentioned Showtime. Chris Culliver was at Showtime last year, and I believe he was offered right after the Showtime camp. He's taking his official visit June 17th. Before we get to him, let's go ahead and begin with this weekend. 4-star offensive tackle Luke Burgess is one of the kids. You want to kind of hit a snapshot on? We're not going to go in depth, like I said. Just kind of gloss over some of these kids. And these are some names Carolina fans should keep their eyes and ears on. So why should they be very interested in Luke Burgess?
Well, he came back last month when they had their other big official visit weekend. He came in unofficial and fell in love He's a tackle that from Indiana that has a great relationship with Coach Bicknell. Coach Bicknell basically has offered him twice at Louisville and now North Carolina. And he came away with a visit, blown away, and was maybe a day or so later come out with his top three: Carolina, Florida State, and Louisville. So he's taking an official visit this weekend to Carolina. Then I believe Louisville and Florida State are on consecutive weekends. So he's a big target. I believe he's 6'8", 275, plays for another former Carolina offensive lineman, Kyle Ralph, up in Indiana. So he would be a huge pickup.
Chris Culliver, whom we mentioned, he was so excited about the offer last year. We were like, hey, could he commit now? Because remember, Latavius Nash, he committed after Showtime 2019, which was before his junior year. He was the first member of that class to commit. So very quickly on Chris Culliver.
I think he's one of the top athletes in the state wherever he plays. He plays at Maiden High School. He had an outstanding junior year on both sides of the ball. He's a playmaker, wide receiver, DB, kick returner, very high on Carolina. I know there's some other programs that are trying to get him. I know Virginia Tech is high on his list because the relationship he has with Caleb Farley from the same school from him, local kid that a lot of kids look up to. But Chris Culliver, he's going to come down I believe the 17th.
Yeah.
And, Carolina, I believe they're recruiting him as a wide receiver, but he can play anywhere. And he would be a really huge addition. I always had positive stuff to say about Carolina. I think Carolina's very attracted to him because of his playmaking abilities.
He was very impressive at Showtime last year. Also was Kevin Concepcion. Now, there are 4 kids we're going to highlight that come in June 24th, which is when their official visits begin. One of them is Concepcion. We've been monitoring him since that night. He's prototypical slot kid. He wanted that Carolina offer. We felt pretty confident an offer would come. We even shot an isolation video of him that we eventually ran once the offer came, which was 6 months later or something. But I really like this kid. I think this is one of those dudes that will end up wherever he goes, will play above the star ranking.
Yeah, he it just took a little bit of time. Carolina was being patient, and Coach Galloway and the staff finally decided to offer. I think he was one of the top performers at the Showtime camp. Yeah. I mean, he was. I watched him a lot, during that camp, and he plays on one of the top teams in the state, so he gets a lot of press and recognition and everything. I kind of think this could come down to an in-state battle. I know Florida. He went to Florida State for unofficial, but I know State, Carolina are both really high on his list, and I think Carolina is going to be taking a big group of receivers this year because they got to get some kids in there due to the losses they got this past year and everything. So he's a kid that can get grace, get separation, and he's just a playmaker.
A kid who's on everybody's wish list is Rico Walker. We have been talking about Rico for a couple of years now. When he was a freshman, you said, keep an eye on Rico Walker. He's going to be real good. Well, Rico Walker is in the summer heading into his senior year, and he's real good. 4-star. Rivals list him as a defensive end. We've talked a lot before about the different places he could end up, but the importance of him making taking his OV and doing it at the end of the month as well. Kind of speak to that, if you will.
Well, he's going to be in there with a bunch of other kids. Tad Hudson, UNC's first commitment quarterback, is going to be there as well. It's just that nice time that they can have a visit. I always think some of the lice visits are important. I think they have a better idea of. I mean, people have different opinions. Some like the first, some like middle, some like the end. I think at the end of the cycle, the one that does has maybe the advantage, because then the kid can compare, well, I've been here, been there, now I'm here, this is different here. But Rico, Tennessee's a big player for him. I think Carolina, they've got a great chance to land him. But his dad played at Auburn, got a lot of SEC roots. He also his father knows Coach Cross really well, and they're recruiting Rico in that outside linebacker, defensive end, jack maybe spot. But I really think Rico, the people should just recruit Rico as an athlete and let him develop wherever, because that kid could play everywhere. First time I saw him, he was out at a camp playing wide receiver. He wanted to play. He wanted to play offense, but a lot of people talked him in like, your future may be on the defensive side. But he is a heck of an athlete, and he's from a part of the state that North Carolina needs to kind of reclaim. I mean, the western part, the western foothills around Hickory. I know Tennessee and Clemson has had and now in Georgia they've done really well up in the western part of the North Carolina. So it would be huge to get Rico, in the Carolina blue.
Also, I do recall Rico telling you that day he was playing receiver that he wanted you to see him play. He wanted anybody who covers recruiting to see him play receiver. Christian Hamilton also plays receiver and is really good. He's a 4-star kid. He comes in that last weekend of June as well.
He's like Culliver, play anywhere on the field that his team wants him to there in Hickory Ridge. I've seen him at 7-on-7 play a little bit of linebacker, not middle linebacker, but kind of an edge linebacker or whatever in 7-on-7. A lot of people don't think a lot of 7-on-7, but I thought it was kind of, cool to see Christian covering running backs coming out of the backfield. But he's a great receiver, great kid. He's got a tremendous offer list. Another in-state kid that Coach Brown wants to land. And these last 4 that we're talking about are in-state kids and would be a tremendous boost for in-state recruiting. One of the main things that Coach Brown has always said he wanted to do was dominate the state and keep that fence up if he could.
David Hobbs, 3-star defensive end. I don't know a ton about him, even though you've talked about him some, but we've talked a lot about some of the offensive skill guys and stuff. We talked a lot about receiver. I mean, you and I just have our chit chats and stuff. We haven't really talked a whole lot about him. So tell me what I need to know about him, and therefore everybody else will find out what they need to know as well.
He's kind of been a sleeper. I mean, he come to Rivals camp, and he had some offers, and so he's like a lot of kids, come to camps and go against some of the best. I mean, down there in Charlotte, you had some really good offensive linemen down there. You had the David Sanders, who's a standout at Providence Day, 25 kid. You had Cam Pringle, a really good offensive, Josh Miller, who's committed to Penn State. So Davian was down there, and he did really well, along with another kid that visited a few weeks ago, Jamal Jarrett. They both did really well down at Nations Ford. So then he started popping up. Carolina offered him. I think it was an offer that he really, really wanted, because he got offered, and then the next day he was there at the spring game. So it didn't take much to get him on the recruiting radar. So I feel like North Carolina's in a great position for him. He's a defensive end, and out of J.M. Robinson in Concord. So he'll be interesting kid to watch.
How big is this month for the program? They only have 3 commits in 2023. And you told people way back in the wintertime, back in January, that, hey, this might be slow for multiple reasons, with no longer the pressure under COVID, or I better take offers when I get them. That mindset is not applied now. A lot of kids want to take all their offers and go through all the camps and do lots of different things. Take their visits rather. But 3 commits, it's June now. I don't think that's the pace that this staff would like. So how big a month is this for Carolina?
It's huge. I mean, right now we're borderline with 30 official visits. And with that last weekend, it's a high number. And recruiting is fluid. There could be some surprise visits. I mean, we're not even talking about unofficial visits. Some of these kids, they're so, I mean, especially the in-state kids, they're so used to coming to UNC. They may not even take official visits. And Zach Rice, he did something, not ordinary. He didn't even take an official visit. And a lot of the recruiting people, well, if kids don't take official visits, they're not going to go to that school. Well, Zach Rice had been to Carolina so many times, he knew everything there was about it. So he didn't feel like there was a need to take an official. And some of these in-state kids, they may not take an in-state visit because they've been at Carolina numerous times. So it is huge. And I think that the recruiting will be picking up big time. I know I'm going to have to work overtime and trying to keep up with all these kids because there's several and stuff. And so got a big weekend this weekend with the camp. So I'll be looking for standouts there. And so, and then.
Well, that's the other thing I wanted to bring up there. I think, who knows, the camps always lead to offers. We've been covering these camps for years, and the sessions are run differently under Mac than they were under Larry. Larry had more, they were more spread out, but it wasn't uncommon that there was at least one offer from, I wouldn't say every camp session. There were a few that there weren't any, but about 5 of the sessions, they had a decent contingent of quality prospects, and there were always a couple of offers from each one. So there could be offers this weekend born out of camp, and those kids could end up taking officials later in the month. They could come back.
Well, a lot of these kids will probably be younger kids, under the radar kids, freshmen, sophomores that are just basically kind of starting the recruiting process. Carolina will have their Showtime camp later, where they will have, basically handpicked who they want to come. And
I'm including that. And when
there may be some kids that stand out here and they want to get a closer look against some of the top guys. And so it's valuable, and it's going to be a huge weekend, and I'm looking forward to it.
Last thing, how many commitments do they need out of the OVs for this month? Do you think 5 or 6 is a fair number to say, hey, you got to get 5 or 6 of these kids?
Yeah, I would think that they would need to have that many to get some momentum. Yeah. I mean, they got 3 right now. They need.
There was a sense that they were going to get more here a couple of weeks ago. There was a couple that were sort of teetering on the edge, hadn't happened yet, still could happen. But you know how that is. Sometimes when it's real close, it doesn't happen. Sometimes it never happens.
Yeah.
For certain kids.
But I would think they would need to at least get about 5 to be successful and everything.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Deana, fantastic stuff. Huge month. Burn the midnight oil, my friend. At some point, we're getting you to the beach for a few days. So who knows? Maybe July. That'll be a good time for it. Anyway, she is Deana King. I'm Andrew Jones. We appreciate you stopping by.